In this video, I'm going to be discussing alignment modes 7 and 8 in sports photo automation. These alignment modes are different from the other alignment modes for the players, and that is because these do not use alignment marks to align your image, and they do not align to a specific layer. These will align to the edges of the canvas in your document. Now, these are typically meant for images that have not been cut out. They will work for cutout images too, but generally speaking, these are for non-cutout images. So I'm just going to hit Add Player Layer Group. And you'll see the difference on these layers is there's nothing to scale or adjust or move around. This just puts an empty layer in. So you're just going to leave this where it is without doing anything to it, other than you'll move the player group where you want in the document. So in this case, I'm going to move it behind the team name and this vignette. I don't know if I'd really even call this a template. This is just a couple of overlay layers that I threw together just for this demonstration, just so you could see something on the image. And of course, your images will have your own fancy template that you want to put your images into. But anyways, I'm just going to hit Add Custom Player Image. That's going to bring the image in and scale the image to the document. So if we look at the image size here, and this is the smart object I clicked on to see the original image size, we're 4752 by 3168. This is a 3:2 aspect ratio image. And if you look at the document is a different size. It's 2400 by 3600 pixels. It's also a 3:2 aspect ratio. But what it's done, if I hit Control T here, you can see that it scaled the image to 75.76%, and the image matches the edges of the document perfectly. So it's done that math for us. And you see if we move the image around, you can see that the edges of this image are right at the edges of the document. So that works perfectly as long as the aspect ratios match. And the differences in mode 7 and 8, the only differences is how it will handle situations if the aspect ratio of the image you're bringing in does not match the aspect ratio of the document. If the aspect ratios match, like they do in this case, where the image is a 3:2 aspect ratio and the document is a 3:2 aspect ratio, then both modes 7 and 8 will give you the identical results. I'm going to demonstrate what's going to happen with each mode, though, if the aspect ratios don't match, because each of these modes will handle that situation differently, which is why there's two modes to begin with. So I'm now going to create or rescale this to be a 5:4 aspect ratio. I kind of distorted the text a bit, but no big deal. This is just for demonstration purposes. Not really too concerned about a little distortion here in this video. Just move this vignette just a bit so it's not covering the image. Anyways, good enough. Something like this. We'll just go with it. Okay, so now this is a 5:4 aspect ratio. So now I'm going to add my player group again. And move that where we want it. Now if I hit Add Custom Player Image, I'm going to bring in that same image, which was a 3:2 aspect ratio. And you can see now that it left gaps on the left and the right side. And that is because the aspect ratio, again, of this image we brought in was more narrow than the aspect ratio of the document. So what it's done is if I hit Control T and view the scaling now, it's now at 63% scaling. What it did was it matched the height of the document. So you see the bottom of that lined up to the bottom of the document, and the top of it lined up to the top of the document. And so what Mode 7 will do is it will scale your image so it fits the document, but never crop any of the image. So we're viewing the entire image here, but in order to do that, it had to leave gaps because of the different aspect ratio. Now I'm going to bring in Player Mode 8. And move that in place. And then I'm going to hit Add Custom Player Image, and we'll bring in that same image. So what this has done now, zoom out a little bit so you can see the edges. You see the pink borders on the edges of this when I click on it to drag. That's the actual borders of your image itself. So you can see that if I move it up and down, there's more pixels that were off canvas on that image. So what Player Mode 8 does is it fits the image to the canvas, and it scales it as much as it needs so that there's no empty space but no more. So if I Control T to scale, this will show us the boundaries of our image. You see what it's done is it brought the image in, then it scaled it down just until a point where it fits in the canvas, but then it doesn't scale anymore. So it fills the canvas the best it can, but it will crop the top and the bottom, or the left and the right if your aspect ratio was the other way, where it was the image you were bringing in was more square and the canvas was more of a vertical rectangle. It would crop off the left and the right and fill the top and the bottom. But in this case, it cropped the top and the bottom off, if that makes sense. So I guess there's different use cases for each of these modes. And if you use the pause step in SPA when it runs, on the pause to scale step, as soon as it brings up this scaling, you could then move this in place wherever you want it during the batch, if you wanted to have the batch pause for you when you're running. But the best thing with this mode, though, is if you just match the aspect ratio of your images beforehand to the aspect ratio of the document, then, like we demonstrated in the beginning of the video, the image will fit perfectly, and you won't have to worry about whether to leave gaps or to crop part of the image. Anyway, I hope this explains modes 7 and 8 for you. And these are useful for a lot of different situations when you're not doing cutout composites, or you're just using overlays on your images with your own templates or whatever. Thanks for watching.